All right, so it's 9:10. Hi, everyone. I'm Vivian. I'm the marketing coordinator over at Tenbound, and on behalf of the team, I'd like to thank you all for joining us. Just to give you a heads up, we are recording this session and we'll be posting it live. And so if you don't want to be recorded, just make sure to keep your camera and your mic off. And so today, I am pleased to announce we have Brian Vital, who is the VP of Sales Development with ZoomInfo. And so I'm going to kick it off to him.
Hi, everyone. Brian Vital here. This is sort of unusual for me, right? I'm a leader of SDRs and I got a slide deck here. So I will try to make the most of it for you all and let everyone know how we handle the SDR progression. So this deck is titled How to Fast Track Your SDR's Road to 1 Million in Revenue, right? So how do we get SDRs in the door to producing, $1 million for the business that you are working with? So that's me, Brian Vital. I've been affiliated with ZoomInfo Discover.org for about 7 years, and I joined as the VP of Sales Development about 16 months ago. So I was in Buffalo and then moved to Boston, and it's been an incredible ride so far as part of the ZoomInfo team. Now, just as ZoomInfo is a publicly traded company, this presentation may contain forward-looking statements. So any buying decision you make should be made solely upon what's currently available for the products and offerings. Our complete safe harbor statement is displayed here for your review. So take a quick read of that, and then we'll get started. All right, so what does ZoomInfo do? How does it help the SDR team? You can see here, we help companies of all sizes go to market. So whether you're a Fortune 1000 company like DocuSign or you're a pallet manufacturer in Alabama, there are ways we can help. So the big thing that's been really critical for our SDR team and SDR teams alike in the world is the direct dials has been huge, but even more importantly is the mobile numbers. So you can see sort of how we help businesses in this plethora of knowledge here. But some of the big things that we do as an SDR team is we shifted from direct dial at their desk in their office. Almost all of our calling now is based through mobile numbers. And just as a tip for anyone that's building lists, you're in reporting in Salesforce or other CRMs, we prioritize the contacts with mobile numbers now. So if you're like me and you've been an SDR manager for about 6 years, you may hear this. I have no connect rates. I'm not connecting with anyone. That's why I had a bad day, right? And so what we did is say, hey, well, we need to rethink contacts by doing a few things. And the number one thing is, does it have a mobile number? If it does, we prioritize that to the top of the list. But also other things that do matter when you think about quality of a call. You think about if a company gets acquired, right? There's new contacts there to go after. Are they currently researching a solution similar to yours, right? With the ZoomInfo, we have the ability to tell you, hey, they're actually looking for a company that is doing something similar to what you do, new CEOs, funding, and all that. So we'll get into the thing now, but I want to show a little bit of how ZoomInfo can help you and also how it helps our SDRs. So an SDR motion built on accountability. So we basically prepare the SDR team with everything they need. We believe in raw talent, upskilling, coaching, and most importantly is building a clear career trajectory. A lot of SDRs that I hear are unhappy. It's based on, hey, I've been an SDR here for 17 months, and we get a lot of great SDRs joining ZoomInfo that way. So this is sort of the results that we saw by doing this. So we had an increased retention and productivity. We reduced SDR ramp time to almost where ramp doesn't even mean a thing in our business. Like ramp is not a term that you would hear here at ZoomInfo. And obviously sales readiness and then the best in class standards. So we respond to every single inbound lead within 90 seconds. So, all right. So here's sort of the breakdown of our team. And you can see sort of the whole go-to-market cycle here of our business. So everything really starts with our demand gen, marketing, and revenue generation team. So you think about hot leads in the door, right? We've got a marketing team that helps us getting those leads. We also have warm leads that come in through events and content syndication, and then we also have an engaged leads as well. But all of that from that team trickles down through the rest of the funnel here. So let's go through sales development, though, as that is the purpose of today. We have 3 buckets of SDRs. So we've got a lot of teams, right? We've got about 10 to 12 teams in our SDR department of 170 people. But it starts with inbound SDRs, right? So inbound SDRs are fed solely on our inbound leads. We call them hand raisers. So someone that fills out a form on our website, that is an inbound SDR. The other concept, which a lot of companies don't have this, right? So a lot of companies, they've got inbound SDRs and they've got outbound SDRs. Well, in the middle here at ZoomInfo, we have something called warm. It's called warm SDRs. They're called SWAT SDRs actually. And basically what they're doing is they're working everything that is not, I guess, got to that hand raising level yet. Okay. So when you think about a warm lead for your business, and maybe they filled out a white paper. If your marketing team has got, a marketing automation provider, maybe they clicked an email 3 times and viewed it 7 times, but hey, like that's certainly more of a warm lead than pure cold calling, right? So we have this middle team, and it's a transition team to handle warm leads. So it's stuff that, again, not raising their hand, but not quite cold. And then we have our outbound SDR function. And then from there, you can see that those paths lend way to account executives, account management, and many other positions. And on the bottom there, you can see some of the things they do. So again, this we've got about 30 minutes in total, so I know I'm cruising by things. We'll have questions at the end. I'm always happy to talk more on LinkedIn, so excuse me for the pace here. So managing our pipeline obviously is critical. One of the aspects we're really proud of is growing our team internally at ZoomInfo. It starts with us going to market. So we bring in SDRs at a low on-track earnings. So it's usually their first or second job, and we're able to start getting value from them right away. So we have an onboarding training of about 2 weeks. So 2 weeks, they come to us, right? Their first job out of college, maybe a second job. And we are getting revenue out of them by literally day 11. So how we do that, we have a really dedicated enablement team. And there's no shortcutting the enablement team by any means. So our enablement team is on all of our calls, all of our sales calls, our meetings with our CRO. The enablement team is truly an extension of the go-to-market team. And by doing that, they're picking up this knowledge to further educate the SDRs in their first 2 weeks. So that is something I'm really proud of where, how are you getting an SDR by day 11 talking to CROs? And, it's a lot of things. A lot of it's just having a lot of, and this sounds like really like easy, but it helps a lot, is beyond the enablement training when they first start. A big thing is offering help through Slack channels. That seems easy, but it works a lot. So we have 2 channels on Slack that every SDR joins when they join our business. The first Slack channel is a no channel. We call it literally the no channel. And anytime you get told no and you're sort of like stumbling on like, I don't know what to say back to that no on the call, you can post that conversation, that rejection there. And we actually, as an SDR team, come together, all 170 of us, myself included, and we say, hey, if you hear someone saying they got burned by a list company before, here's how you pivot to handle that. So that's one. The second channel in really helping people scale up from inbound is we just have an SDR help channel, right? What do I do when I can't find an account executive to run this meeting? What do I do if the person has no professional website, right? These are things that, like, when you're 11 days in, what are you going to do? Like, grab a deli ticket and just wait in line for your questions? No, you want to get going. Our speed here at ZoomInfo is critical for fast pace. So we have the 2 Slack channels, and the enablement team really is critical to getting these inbound SDRs on the phone by day 11. Now, inbound, we have some people on our team that progress through inbound in 2 months. Those are our top talent, but it's about 1 to 4 months. And then the pooled outbound SDRs is 5 to 7 months. So that would include those warm SWAT teams. And then, of course, we get the paired outbound SDRs. Real quickly, so inbound, you go to this SWAT team, this pooled outbound SDR team. And what that looks like is you're booking meetings, but they are just simply going round robin to the account executives, right? So there's strategy there. You're learning how to be an outbound SDR. You're calling stuff that's a little bit more warm, but you're not really needing to focus in on the account-based sales development methods. Right now, you're just getting used to the tools. You're calling, you're emailing, you're booking meetings, you're round robining demos, all good. But from there, with success in months 5 to 7, you get promoted to a 1-to-1 pairing. And it's extremely critical, obviously, in that situation because number one, they're going after hopefully target accounts with high, contract values, right? So they're going after large accounts. But also, like you've got SDRs paired with, and that paired outbound SDR, it is not easy to get there. You're looking at about 20 of our 70 outbound SDRs are in that group. And so that being said, they're working with our 20 best account executives for 4 months. Like, you want to know a good way to get an SDR ready to be an account executive in 1 year? Have them work with your best AEs for 4 months. Now, it's not always easy, right? Like I'm always the first to hear when an SDR is not fulfilling their half of that, that deal with the account executives. But man, it is quite the difference. So one thing throughout all this, though, to keep in mind is you really need to figure out who you're bringing in the door. And I know this is like one of those topics, right? We see it all the time on LinkedIn. Is these are how I interview SDRs. This is the right way of doing it. No, you don't want to have SDRs do that. You have to have them send you a letter in the mail, blah, blah, blah. And the really critical thing here is you need to figure out a commonality between your best salespeople and then apply that to the recruitment process. So 3-4 years ago, we sucked at this, like really bad. Excuse my language if some find that offensive, but we were not good at this. And so what we sort of said is there anything in common? Like, is there anything common? Like, I know most of them like to hike, but like that doesn't really seem applicable. So what we did is we just started testing our account executives, and I mean the top 10%. So these account executives are where we hope SDRs get. What is common with them? And the answer was pretty simple, actually. The answer was all of our top account executives are extremely bright, really, really bright, and it makes sense, right? Like we're moving at such a fast pace. We don't always have a ton of time to like lift people up through education. Like we get you off the ground pretty strongly, but then as you move along in our business, this pace of ZoomInfo is incredibly fast. So that was something that we found out that every one of our top account executives was extremely bright. So what we did is we started applying a cognitive test to all of our applicants joining the go-to-market team. So we use something called, and everyone always asks me this, we use something called the Omnia Cognitive Assessment Test. And we actually use the executive version of that test because that was better for our business. We wanted to get really these high-level, intelligent people. And by doing that, we were able to take this, the giant pool of resumes coming in, offering this test to go out. And then we knew that if people were going to be successful here, we mean like the top performers here, they need to score above a 70% on that test. And it's like it's basically like how you compare to other directors. So it's a pretty cool test. Again, it's called Omnia Cognitive Assessment Test. And basically what it tells you, and this has been a while since I read there or had a demo from them, is it tells you where does this person rank cognitively amongst other directors in business, right? So I guess all of you right now, right, you're sort of thinking like, well, I think I'm going to be smart, but think about it, right? You are in a room with 100 other directors and higher. What percentile would you be in that ranking? And for us, you need to be in that 70 percentile or higher. So we grabbed that information, we put it through the hiring process, and that really was like one of the first big shifts for us in finding great SDRs. We found really smart, hungry people. The two other things that I want to talk about briefly in regards to the hiring process, number one, have them meet people on your team, right? Like, yeah, we hired Bill, but man, he's a bad culture fit. And you're like, well, did he talk to anyone except the Brian Vital of your organization? Did he meet SDRs before he was hired, or he or she was hired? Did he or she meet your frontline managers? Did he or she meet your CRO? Right? I would say that the answer to many of those is probably no. They probably met maybe a manager of that certain segment you're working in, and probably if you're a VP or head of sales development yourself. So if you want to get a good gauge on culture and if they can fit in, have them meet people on your team. If someone really wants to work with you, they're not going to mind speaking to your CRO for 15 minutes. Like, that's an incredible opportunity. So something to keep in mind there. And the last thing is really unique that we do, and this is a tip that I actually learned quite a while back, but it's been pretty good, is offer them to do some type of like role play with you. And what we do here on our team is we have SDRs actually pitch us something they're passionate about. I had one gentleman, and he told me the thing he was most passionate about was actually gardening. So it's pretty cool. And I said, well, I don't garden. And I sort of said to him, like, well, I think gardening's sort of a waste of time. He looked at me with these eyes like he wanted to combat me. And, I always say at the end of it, like, hey, like that purpose was for me to sort of give you what you're going to hear on the phone from people when you cold call them. I've been in so many trainings where they go through this role play and you're like, that is nothing to what happens on the phone. It is nothing. It is not even remotely close. You don't even get an opportunity to read 4 paragraphs from this pitch you gave me. So when you're hiring SDRs, ask them, say, hey, what is something you're really passionate about? And then just let them say whatever they want. And, around here in Waltham, it's like Patriots, Red Sox, Celtics. I get it. But, you sort of look for something they're passionate about. And then just be jerky, but not disrespectful. It's well, I don't think so. Like, yeah, I mean, Celtics are good this year, but the Bucks are better. Whatever you want to say. And let them really show you how they can persuade. And I think it gives the person that you're hiring the best chance to succeed, right? If they can't be passionate with you about the thing that they're most passionate about, how are they going to go on the phone and talk about data, right? Now they can learn to love ZoomInfo more, as I do, and many people do here, obviously. But I want at least to know that somewhere inside you've got this fire behind your eyes, right? You've got this passion, and once you learn about how great ZoomInfo is, you're going to apply that passion right into the role, of course. And you might say, well, Brian, come on, everyone's got some passion. It's not true. Some people just don't. They don't have that fire to be an outbound SDR and to bring passion behind every call. So the one last thing I would say to you all is when they do role play with you, whatever it is, find a part of that is not good. So it may be something like, hey, Mike, good pitch there, but I would really recommend you putting the value a little bit more in front of your pitch before you get hung up on. Everyone says to me, how do you interview for coachability? I don't know. How do you do it? Well, it's pretty simple. You tell someone after their pitch that it wasn't good, and you want to be sincere. And if you get someone that's hey, that's really good feedback. I never thought of that. Yeah, that's something I'm gonna have to apply if I'm hired here or somewhere else. But if you get someone that's I don't know, I disagree. I learned that in my last place and I was killer. That was awesome. You're well, we do things differently here, right? Every business is different. So those are a few hiring tips that we also work in. All right. So moving forward, excuse me. So how to hire the right kind of SDR talent. We talked about this, audit your top sales reps to identify the common trait driving business outcomes. Incorporate the same cognitive assessment into your hiring process. We live in this world where we're blessed, right? We're in software tech, most of you out there, if you're not, but no matter what you're selling, the ability to pick something up and move quickly is really valuable. So get that cognitive assessment out to all your teams. Add a qualitative assessment, culture fit, have them meet your team. And of course, test for that coachability with the pitch prompt. All right. So one really big thing that we are doing right now is making sure that we get to every lead in a really quick response time. So thank you, marketing team at ZoomInfo. I'm going to put that out there. We do get 10,000 hot leads a month, so we are blessed there. I worked for businesses before where we got 10 a month, so 10,000 is pretty cool. Anyways, we got 70 SDRs. We book over 6,500 inbound demos a month, and we have under a 90-second SLA time. So what I would say to you for something like this, so if your company gets a good amount of inbound leads in, right away, something that you should take away from this is set up a benchmark time to handle leads, okay? And the one thing that starts from day one education, I personally, nobody can. I don't care if nobody can possibly keep an eye on every 90-second of every 10,000 hot leads there, right? It's an impossible task to ask. So from day one, the education starts. And how we do this is everyone has a lead router. And if you leave your desk, you turn your lead router off. Simple as that, right? 70 SDRs, if one gets lunch, 69 still are there. 2 more get lunch, 67 still there. But from the beginning, the get-go, the education is that lead router switch is critical. It is important because every second you waste on an inbound lead wastes money for the business you work for. So we have again, the first slide says a slide of accountability. That is what we have here. So we teach and we train and we educate the SDRs on the importance of the under 90-second time. And if someone forgets to turn the router off and they have a half day and those leads are getting routed to someone who is not responding to them, now don't get me wrong, it doesn't happen often, but it does happen. Like they will lose their router for a week. And you're saying like, well, Brian, that's like really harsh. Like there's still other lists they can call. They're not doing nothing. They're not making no commission. But obviously the hottest leads that come in are the ones that are coming in real time. And then, the ones we don't convert upon get put in a list. But it is truly an accountability environment. You remind your friends, hey man, like, hey, turn off your engine. Hey, you gotta turn your engine off before you go get lunch. And by doing that, educating, talking about the importance, we're able to have this under 90-second response time where everyone feels accountable, everyone's in control, and everyone feels really proud to own that. That's something that's really we're proud of here at ZoomInfo. All right, gonna need some time for questions at the end, but this is the outbound SDR motion. So let me break this down quickly. We do a pooled outbound SDRs. They go to paired outbound SDRs. So pooled is round robin motion. They're going to account executives across certain segments. And then what we call these one-to-one pairings, we call them gold SDRs. So from there, they're on those teams. They're learning from an account executive for about 4 months or so. And then you can see to the right, I know this is an SDR conference, but we've got multiple teams here on the account executive side to really help progress people. So we don't have people that join this business and work here for a year or two because I couldn't tell you how much we thought about these paths, right? So we have inbound SDRs, we have warm SDR, SWAT SDRs, we have outbound SDRs, pooled with that SWAT group, paired, and then we have 4 levels of account executives. Now, each level, of course, there's compensation involved, right? Like you got to motivate people to crush. And one thing that we do too is like we have so many things in place for over acceleration. If you work for a business where there's a cap on commission, or if you're 300%, you don't get paid more. No offense to the business you work for, but I'd recommend talking to someone about that. That's critical for us. Like nobody on our go-to-market team stops when they hit quota. And maybe that's unusual because I've been in those organizations as well. But like you never want to have a comp plan. And for SDRs, I heard a lot of SDRs I interview with, they say their quota is this and their commission is this and it's flat. And I'm like, well, what if you do like 40 completed meetings? They're like, no, it's still $2,000. I'm like, what? So, one thing to think about if you're an SDR manager or leader, start thinking about your comp plans. What if they get to 150%? What about 200%? What about $250,000 ACV in a month? That should be rewarded because, the value of that person getting to those numbers, I'll tell you what, if they choose to leave, it's going to be way more expensive than paying them for extreme successes. So something to keep in mind. All right. So going back to this, you can sort of see once again the path that we have. You've got 7 different sort of roles within the new business side. But the incredible thing here is ZoomInfo, we had people join, those proven transfer opportunities. I won't read through them all, but that is no BS. We just had an SDR leave our team to join the revenue generation operations team. It's been here for a year. And this person always wanted to be in sales ops. So these are all like this path, and I guess that last stair could be, all those AE positions, or it could be anything in that box top left. So make sure that is known though. Like we have a full career pathing and the first day of training here. So don't sit on this with like your VP of sales, CRO, and your CEO being like, this is our career path. Like get it out there. Because if you don't feel comfortable getting it out there, then you should rethink it because it must not be that good. I'm not trying to be mean, but like this is the path. You go through inbound, you do SWAT leads, you go to outbound, you make the most of the pairing, you get ready to know the business more and handle relationships and conversations, and then you go do more. And this, everyone knows this. You ask anyone on our team, like, what do you want to do a year from now? They'll talk you through where they want to go. I know it's going to be cliche when I send this, but can you like imagine like just starting in a business now and like not having any idea like what you want to do next? Anything in life, any path, any journey, like not knowing an end goal, like why are you walking down this path in the first place? So if you don't have a very firm career pathing for your SDR team, I highly recommend you getting one out there as soon as possible. So how to upskill your SDRs. So you want to create specialized SDR functions. For some of you small businesses listening to this, do not think your SDRs can do inbound and outbound. They might be able to do it for a quarter, but I'm telling you, it's a mistake. You want to have your SDRs, some on inbound, some on this warm stuff, and some on outbound. Milestones, right? We talked about this. Never have them stop at quota. There's 6 days left in the month. They could be bringing in more revenue. But of course, they're human. They want something on the line too. So make sure that you get them something where something is, it could be anything. A lot of people on this call, you think milestones are just money, just dollars, right? It's not the case. Like, how many people on your team would appreciate a Friday afternoon off? I don't know. I don't know your businesses, but think about that. How do I get my team to always want to do more? Consistent training, that's obvious. If you're not doing consistent training, it's a mistake. And then and also the communicate career progression points and expectations. All right. So high accountability, high growth. So building this culture starts with educating your SDRs. You can't just tell someone to do something that's really hard and not tell them why you're doing it. That's just a giant mistake. I think that's like anything in life, right? Like, you can't just tell someone to do something, expect it to be done. You need to educate, talk, communicate. And then obviously common understanding. Our monthly goals for an SDR team, we talk about that every single day. So every single day I wake up and I do an 8 o'clock stand up for the SDR team. So myself and 100 East Coast SDRs, we get on a bridge. We talk about who did good yesterday, who's going to do good today, and we talk about our goals and how we're pacing every day. Here's the next thing. We have West Coast SDRs, so I do the same thing at 10 o'clock every day. And they're like, well, Brian, that seems ridiculous. I'm busy. How do you just take, an hour and a half of your day every day? Because you have to believe. You have to believe that, the SDR team needs to know what they're working towards. So I get there and I say, hey, yesterday was not a great day. He or she missed this dial quota. We're a team here. We all did our dial expectations. I tell them, this is where we're at for the month. Hey, we're 2% ahead of pacing. We're 2% behind of pacing. We need a big day today. So we meet every single day in the morning. We meet midday. The managers run a midday check-in just to see how things are going. And then the management team, we meet every night just to go over the day. So key takeaways. I won't read through all these for the sake of time, but I think you can basically see here some of these things that are needed to actually have good career progression for the SDRs and certain segments of the teams. Like most things to work out well, it's always communication. So just keep that in mind. All right. So how to set up specializations within your SDR motion, gain understanding of where your leads are coming from. So that's pretty easy thing to do, sort of look in your Salesforce, see where current leads are being called, and just try to understand the origination of that lead. And then once you understand where leads are coming from, then you can allocate resources to where those leads are coming in. One thing we do on a weekly basis, we look at every campaign and judge how successful it was. So was this campaign successful? And then there's different ways to measure that, but mostly it's revenue, right? So this campaign was launched this date. This week it led to this much revenue. We look a month later, then it led to this much revenue, and then we work back and make sure the campaigns are working well. And then, you got to just make those specialized tiers, obviously, for your team. All right, so I've got 1:30 left. I'm sorry I ran late. I tried to cruise through that, and I'm sorry if it was confusing at all, but I think at this point we're trying to open it up to some questions. All right, so I see some questions in here. All right, just running through. What lead routing systems do you use? We use something called Distribution Engine through Salesforce. I think it's just an app on Salesforce. So leads will come in, and then once they hit our Salesforce, they get routed real time. What else? Any thoughts on if your SDRs are hitting 300% of their quota, the goals are too low? Maybe. Yeah, it's a good question. I would have said yeah. But right now I have an SDR who is at 40 completed meetings this month. So, if you believe in that anyone can define new possibles, it's sort of hard to, but to answer your question, we don't have a lot of people hitting 300%. But if someone does, they should probably be compensated and rewarded for that, right? So it's a good question, but it's something that we look at monthly. We don't change comp plans monthly, but we look at how many people are at 300, how many at 200, how many at 100. But it's definitely, if you've got a good portion hitting 300%, your goals are too low. what's the most important quality SDR should have, Brian? I would say intelligence. Like that is something for me too. Like working with highly intelligent SDRs is really valuable. I think the last thing, and it's probably been said a lot, quality is like grit, right? And you're probably saying, well, Brian, like how do you actually search grit? One recommendation I have for our recruitment team, and this is something you can apply to your hiring process tomorrow. If you're looking for candidates that had 4 years of higher ed education, look at what they did while they were in college. So no offense to anyone out there, this is not always true, but did this person sort of just do the bare minimum in college? Did they, just go to classes, did pretty good, like a 3.4 GPA, not bad? Or like, are you seeing candidates on their resumes that like they ran the school newspaper and she also played a sport and she also worked part-time and she also got a 3.4, right? So one thing that I would say for quality is grit, but like how do you look for it? I always look for it on how hard did they work from 18 to 22, because that's sort of like my minor leagues, right? Like that's sort of like who I'm getting a lot of. So just see what they did there in college and how busy they were, I guess, or how hard they worked. Vivian, do you need me to cut this off or do you want me to keep going?
You can go for another couple minutes.
Okay.
Since I really love the engagement in the chat box.
Yeah, I'd love to. Brian, how did you determine the right number of SDRs to have? Yeah, we worked backwards from goals. So we said, we started with inbound and we looked at the lead quality and we said, we think we can get to this conversion rate. And then basically what we did is we looked at the numbers of leads like by day or by hour. And by looking at that, we were able to look at the numbers and seeing how many people were needed to get to that conversion rate. I know it's sort of hard to talk about and probably easier to show on paper. But what I would say is like, think about what goals you think are possible for SDR team. And then by day, look at the data, like by hour, by day, by week, and then just like look at the numbers and then say, hey, like, what if we added another SDR here because there are leads going a few minutes without being called yet, right? We have 700 great outbound accounts that are not even being called. So I would say, where do you think the team should be? And then apply SDRs there. What is your SDR's outreach quota per day? I think that would mean like dials and emails. Emails, we don't track emails as much as many organizations do. I'm not a big fan of personalized emails personally. It's just who I am. I once wrote like a 10-paragraph email and then, of course, it didn't get responded to, where I can just call someone. But our goal on inbound is 125 dials a day, and outbound required is 75 dials a day. So those are the two metrics that we ask every SDR to do. All right, let's get one more question in here. If I can find one here. Again, thanks for the questions, everyone. I appreciate it. All right, you mentioned the inbound leads, the response time is 90 seconds. Do you use marketing automation for this? Yeah, so what I would say, how this is possible, I mentioned distribution engine, but the one way it's really possible with ZoomInfo is we use our own product in ZoomInfo called Form Complete. So, anyone in marketing, and I don't know that world, but what I do know, what makes sense to me is, right, the more forms you have on your website, the better quality it's going to be. But you might get less leads, right? So basically with Form Complete and ZoomInfo, it's only necessary to have the email. So for some of our forms on our website, all we ask for is an email, their business email. And then what happens from there is Form Complete takes that information into Salesforce and then enriches and enhances that lead with their mobile number, the direct dial number, their email, where they went to school, the position. So those are the two technologies that really make this happen. So distribution engine then takes that lead, but it's not possible. We use Form Complete. It's part of ZoomInfo's product suite. And we use that that's how we get to 10,000 leads. We don't ask for people to fill in 15 forms. Just give us your business email and we'll take care of the rest. And that is possible through ZoomInfo. So if any of that sounded good, ZoomInfo, we do have a booth open today at 2:10 That is being done by one of the senior managers on my team. So he can also show you how that works. He can also show you how, the whole platform can help your SDRs if you are a customer as well. So his name is Tyson Chang, and he'll be available at 2:10. But other than that, I just want to thank everyone for coming out. I really appreciate all the questions. Sorry, I just rambled for 30 minutes. I was trying to get a lot in, but thanks for the time, everyone, and really appreciate it. Thank you.